Welcome to Mr. Edward's Stories. Today's tale is a reminder that respect is a right, not a privilege. Sit back and enjoy the story. It was an early morning in the bustling city of Atlanta. Jordan Mitchell, a calm and confident young man, had arrived at Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport. He was flying to Los Angeles for a meeting, hoping for a smooth journey. Jordan's father, Paul Mitchell, was a successful entrepreneur, well known in his field, but Jordan preferred to keep that private. He was determined to make his own way in life and avoid relying on his father's influence. Jordan dressed simply in a grey hoodie, jeans, and clean sneakers, blending in with the other passengers. To anyone watching, he looked like an average traveller. As he checked his ticket and boarded his flight, he felt a wave of excitement for the opportunities ahead. As he approached the plane's entrance with his first-class ticket in hand, a young flight attendant named Katie Barnes greeted him. Katie had a sharp, scrutinizing look that gave Jordan pause. She didn't even look at his ticket. Instead, she gestured toward the back of the plane. "Coach seating is down that way," she said flatly, barely glancing at him. Jordan looked at her, puzzled, and showed her his boarding pass. "Actually, my seat's in first class," he replied politely, pointing to seat 2A. Katie raised an eyebrow and sighed in annoyance. "Are you sure you're supposed to be here?" she asked, her tone condescending. Her eyes moved over him with a look of disbelief. "Usually this section isn't for everyone, you know." Jordan's heart skipped a beat, but he kept his cool. "I'm certain," he said calmly, moving past her to take his seat. He tried to brush it off, hoping it was just a misunderstanding. He settled into his seat, placing his bag under his chair and pulling out a book. As the plane prepared for takeoff, Jordan noticed Katie moving through the aisle, greeting and serving the other first-class passengers warmly. She exchanged friendly smiles and engaged in small talk, but when she passed him, her expression turned cold. She acted as if he wasn't there at all. Jordan tried to ignore it, but he couldn't help but feel the weight of her dismissive attitude. The subtle looks from other passengers, the occasional whispers. He knew Katie had left an impression that left him feeling uncomfortable. After about half an hour in the air, Jordan became thirsty and waited for Katie to pass by again. "Excuse me, may I have some water, please?" he asked politely as she walked by. Katie looked at him slowly, giving him a forced smile. "Maybe in a bit," she said dismissively before walking off. Jordan's polite demeanor masked his growing frustration. He watched as Katie continued to serve drinks to the other passengers, but each time she walked past him, she ignored his presence entirely. Nearby, an older passenger named Mr. Grant, who had observed the treatment, leaned over to Jordan. "Don't worry about her," he whispered kindly. "I've noticed she has her own ways of dealing with people." Jordan nodded, grateful for the stranger's understanding, but he was still confused and frustrated. It was 2024, and he had always believed he'd be treated with respect wherever he went. Yet here he was, experiencing subtle but undeniable hostility. Katie's rude behavior didn't let up. When he asked for a blanket, she simply shrugged and walked away. When he inquired about the in-flight meal, she ignored him altogether. Jordan felt the eyes of others on him, some with sympathy, others curious, but all uncomfortable. Halfway through the flight, Jordan had had enough. Calmly, he stood up and walked to the front of the plane, where he asked for the head of customer service. Shortly after, Linda Foster, the head of customer service, approached his seat, offering a warm smile. "Hello, sir. Is there something I can help with?" she asked. Jordan, keeping his tone respectful, explained what had happened. "I've asked multiple times for simple things like water, but each time I've been ignored or treated rudely," he said, careful to keep his frustration in check. Linda's expression turned serious. "I apologize deeply for your experience, Mr. Mitchell. I'll address this immediately." Overhearing Linda mention Mr. Mitchell, Katie's face turned pale. She looked at Jordan with a sudden, nervous expression, then quickly averted her eyes, mumbling to herself. Linda gave her a puzzled look and reassured Jordan, "We'll handle this right away." After Linda left, Jordan settled back into his seat, taking a deep breath to calm himself. Just then, his phone buzzed. It was a message from his father, Paul Mitchell. "Son, I've just heard about what's happening on your flight. I'm handling it." Jordan's eyes widened in surprise. He hadn't informed his father of the situation, so he wondered how his father knew about it, and more importantly, what he was doing to handle it. Moments later, Katie returned, looking visibly shaken. She approached Jordan with a shaky voice. I apologize, Mr. Mitchell. I didn't realize—" Before she could finish, the captain's voice echoed over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for any inconvenience. We've been informed of a customer service issue and are working to resolve it. Thank you for your patience." Jordan looked around, noticing the shift in the atmosphere. Passengers who had witnessed the interaction gave him sympathetic glances, while others seemed bewildered, unsure of what was happening. He felt a mixture of relief and curiosity, wondering exactly what his father had done. As the plane began its descent into Los Angeles, Katie's attitude had shifted completely. She seemed embarrassed and avoided eye contact with Jordan entirely, moving quickly down the aisle without her previous attitude. When the plane finally landed, Katie was one of the first to leave, her face flushed and her expression one of regret. When Jordan stepped off the plane, he was met by two representatives from Mitchell Airways, the airline his father owned. They led him to a private lounge, where he found both Linda Foster and the airline's CEO waiting to meet him. His father, Paul Mitchell, had arranged the entire meeting. "Son," Paul said, shaking his head as he approached Jordan, "I've already addressed the situation. Katie has been removed from duty." Jordan sighed and shook his head. "Dad, I didn't want special treatment. I just wanted to be treated with the same respect as anyone else." Paul nodded, his expression softening. "I understand, Jordan, but sometimes people need to understand that their actions have consequences." He paused, looking at his son with pride. "You've worked hard to make your own path, and no one has the right to treat you as any less." Jordan felt the weight of his father's words settle over him. He realized that, while people like Katie may always exist, what mattered was how he responded to their actions. He'd stood up for himself, and that was enough. As Jordan left the airport, he thought back to Katie's reaction when she finally realized who he was. He hoped she had learned something valuable from the experience, but he knew this lesson wasn't just for her. It was a reminder to stand up for himself, and for what was right, no matter who he was. And with that, Jordan walked away from the airport, not just as the son of a successful businessman, but as someone who knew that dignity and respect were things no one could take from him. Thank you for watching till the end. If you enjoyed this story, don't hesitate to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring tales.